Takes a long time. And we are live. Welcome to the Connected for Real live and podcast. I am Rebbetzin Bat-Chen Grossman, and I'm a marriage coach. And Regina is one of my favorite people. And she is going to introduce herself and tell you what she does. But the reason why we're here is because she was on the previous retreat and she has a lot to say and a lot to tell you about why you should join for this free retreat starting next week. Okay, Regina, introduce yourself. Tell everyone what you do.
Hello. Yes, my name is Regina Cox. I am a financial advisor along with my husband. We have a business together in the financial industry. Essentially, what we do is we change people's lives who are in what we consider middle income America. So those individuals generally don't have an education on how to properly protect themselves financially and how to create and establish a savings for themselves that will carry them through retirement and continue into their generations thereafter. So we teach and educate people on how to do that.
That is awesome. And how is working with your husband?
Working with my husband is, it can be challenging at times, but it's an absolute blessing. I have grown to really love the fact that we can be together working and also having moments as we're working where it's like, oh my gosh, this is really happening. I'm sitting here across the desk from you and you have your laptop, I have my laptop, and we can bounce ideas off of each other. We also have to remember to be respectful of each other's time. But and that's not to say that's not every day that we get to actually sit face to face together. We do a lot of times. I work from home more than he does, but the fact that I can turn to him as my go-to person and him for me in whatever ways that is just phenomenal.
Amazing. Okay, where were you? How was your marriage when you first signed up to the retreat?
When I first signed up, our marriage wasn't in a bad place at all. We were actually coming in at about 5 years of marriage. It was just days away from our 5-year anniversary. And for me personally, at least on my mother's side of the family, there's a lot of divorce present. And so marriage was very important to me from the moment that I decided I wanted to marry this man. So I was very committed. I take it very seriously. But we do allow for a lot of humor in there too. So, but yes, so it wasn't in a bad place, but I'm always willing to improve. And
look who sent you a comment live.
Oh my gosh!
Happy anniversary.
Tamima's watching. Oh, I love you, Tamima. Oh, thank you. Yeah. So when you had reached out, the timing was impeccable. And I remember I tried so hard. I still to this day can't figure out how you connected with me. I truly believe it was an act of God. I know that for sure. But I think I traced it of how you probably did. But I was so shocked because then you had asked me if I wanted to be a part of your podcast. I'm like, this woman doesn't even know me. What has she seen in me that could even
have a podcast then?
I don't know. I remember you asking me that. I think I have message proof.
Really? Maybe I was doing lives then, but the podcast came out very recently. So that's pretty funny. Okay, go on. I do not remember that, but that sounds very cool.
Well, so then I was really excited for that. Also very nervous because I'm thinking, okay, I don't know this person. She's probably watched some of my material. Okay, this is good. It's a start, So then I was interested in connecting with you, and you had sent me information about the retreat, but it wasn't until you called and reached out to me, and I got to hear your voice, and you got to ask about who I was and what I do. And then you asked me again, had I signed up? It was, you had sent it, and I was like, oh gosh, I feel kind of guilty right now that I didn't sign up. I really had intention of doing
This is so funny because I did not do that to anyone else. I remember specifically that I just like invited people, and then I would not go back and ask them if they signed up at all. But after speaking with you, because you were like, yeah, sure, I'll talk to you. And we had such a good conversation. I was like, oh man, I really want to meet her more. And I remember specifically asking you and not anyone else. So that's amazing. It was like so funny.
Oh, I made all the difference. It really did. Because when you asked me with your voice, so are you going to be attending? I was like, okay, now this is like, I wasn't put on the spot in a bad way. It was just, I could tell it was like that right pressure of like, this is where you need to be. And
isn't it funny how God does these things? Because I didn't do it for anyone else.
I'm so grateful. I can't tell you how grateful I am that you did that. And it really did. It really made all the difference. I truly believe that.
You were one of the people who showed up. I mean, most people come with the workbook printed because it really is that big of a deal. Like the workbook, do you still have it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm so happy to see that.
This is my folder. This is what I started with before I joined Marriage Mastermind. So now I use journals, but this is literally all of my papers. So this is the packet. These are my notes though.
Oh my gosh. This is the first time I see all this.
Yeah. These are my notes. And I think well, this was one of the things that we did. So that's something separate. But yeah, I kept everything together. And I mean, I took notes.
You took that seriously, girl. I was so impressed. It's amazing. There was 35 people in that room, and most of them took it seriously because the second that you see something is really that valuable, you go all in. And yeah. I was really impressed, with you're not the only one, but your notes are phenomenal.
Well, and I truly did it because I wasn't sure what was going to come of it afterwards. And I always try to make it a point to take notes for anything, because I know if I want to look back at it, I want to make sure I can get what I need from it. So I really tried my best to do that. And I actually did miss day one. I felt terrible about that too. Because I'd realized it literally when it would have been getting over with that first day. And so I said, you know what, it's okay. Show up the next day. And I showed up the next day consistently. I don't remember when I caught up on day one. It didn't take very long because you had mentioned it on day two. And I was like, oh no, that sounded really important. I missed it. That sounded really important.
Day one and day 4 and day 5 are probably my favorite. And it's because they are so like, boom, atom bomb. Like you just take it all the way and transform. Yeah. So yes, day one, definitely show up to day one. That's what I say to people. People say, I can't commit to all 7 days. It's too much for me. I'm like, don't commit. Just come to day one. Like, really, you don't need that much.
And that is so true. I don't think when I grasped the importance of what day one was about and connecting with myself, I mean, still to this day, through your coaching, that's always where I come back to is, am I connected with what I want? Because if I don't know what I want, I can't tell my husband what I want. And if he doesn't know what I want, then he's confused. And then there's just this whole mess ball. Right. Like the one I drew the other day.
But, yeah. I love it. I love it. Ah, yes. It was my favorite. It had a little hat.
I know that it's just, I wish they could see it. I wish they could see it.
Oh, it's great. You know, I really want I want to get I want to take you back to those moments when, you were going through the retreat and all, like, do you remember any aha moments or any big, like, oh my gosh, this is I also even remember your husband noticed there was something going on with you, like halfway through.
Yes. I don't know if I recall right off the top of my head what that was. I feel like if I talked it through, I'd be able to figure it out. But I do know that the biggest thing that I learned up front, maybe that was it actually, was how to ask God for what I want. And when I understood that, I felt like I had such a better understanding and a better connection with God. And I felt worthy of asking him for what I wanted. Like it just made such a difference. And then I was able to share that with my husband. And I was like, this is how you do it. There's some work that goes into it, but this is how I get this works. I see how this is beneficial. So just, that was the biggest thing. And I think we covered that in the first 3 days.
Yeah, it's the second day, I think. I think
Okay.
that's the first time you came live.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Which was also just that experience in itself. I mean, yes, we've all been on Zoom through last year because we had to be, but the fact that I'm here in the US and I get to connect with women across the world was that's one of my favorite things. That was one of my favorite things.
Before we run out of time, I want to ask you how it feels that I'm Jewish and you're Christian and like the group was very mixed. How did it feel? Like some people were wondering about that, and I just want to address that point.
Which is a really great question. Initially, if I was nervous about anything, it was my own fear of feeling like I had to know your beliefs as Jewish people. And I don't, and that just kind of went by the wayside within minutes, because I realized that the most central part of what connects us is God. And I just looked at it as a learning opportunity. I wanted to learn more. And so I don't know. It doesn't, to me, it's more of just understanding that this journey here on earth, it doesn't mean that I have to run away from people who don't have the exact same religious beliefs that I do. But there's always something to learn and gain from it. But again, it's the basis of the fact that we all share Hashem, God, connection with him.
Wow, look at you.
I really have loved that, because even when I go to church, when I attend church, the church we attend is based in growing connections worldwide. It's very much in having multicultural, multi-ethnic, and my husband is Black American. So we felt welcomed at this church, but many times our pastor, when we talk about shalom, when we talk about peace, he will reference it and he'll explain where that comes from. And so it's not that I came in like totally clueless, but I know a few words of the language, but it's been absolutely transforming, just being able to get that perspective and better understanding, because it helps me too. It really does.
Now, one of the things that I love is that I came up with the God-centered line in my, in my description. It's like, I'm a God-centered marriage coach, because I just felt like I can't only help Jewish women. I can't only help a certain, belief or whatever. I really, really, my specialty is connecting with God and being able to like create that central core thing that unites us all. So I felt like calling it God-centered would mean that it's, we're all centered around the same thing. And the women who are not God-centered can just like opt out and be like, oh, it's not for me. And that's fine. But it was really clear if you were or weren't. And I also think that it brought down a lot of the pressure for the women who aren't religious. Like, I believe in God, but I don't keep anything. Like, so, right? Like, who cares? I don't care. I'm not judging you. I'm not telling you what to do. And I think that I'm really, clear on that like, it's not really about what you do or don't do.
Right.
It's more about your connection with God, your connection with yourself, and your ability to bring God into the situation.
I completely agree with that. And I've mentioned this many times to you that that was the biggest thing for me, was that you were so clear about that connection, because building a business is challenging. The whole point is to connect with people, whatever the business is. However, for me personally, if I'm not connected with God, I feel like it's harder to connect with people. So the fact that that was at the core of what you do was huge. It is huge. It makes you different from everybody else, for me, in the best way possible. I just can't grasp the fact that if I can't relate that into my business or put that into my business, then I don't want anything to do with it. It's just that I am who I am because of him. So
Right.
how could I ever continue with anything thinking I could do it myself?
In like the early days when I was hearing all the coaching on podcasts and things. 1 second.
I'm sorry,
So all the podcasts, I was like, oh my gosh, that totally connects with something that I want to add on to that and say, how God is part of this picture. And I told my sister, like, how could I be like all those people who are just coaching without God as part of the conversation? And she said, why do you need to be like them? You be you. And I was like, like, okay. And the thing that I was really scared of showing, which was like my true self, like I am super connected, became my brand, like Connected for Real. So that's really interesting. What do you want to tell people who are like on the fence of not sure, or maybe they're just finding out about the retreat for the first time?
If you're on the fence, you need to hop on the side of signing up for this retreat, because, and here I apologize, they're doing yard work outside. If you're on the fence, you need to choose the side of signing up for the retreat. There's absolutely no reason to be hesitant about it, because what you need to do is show up. That's the most important part, is that you need to show up and be willing to take information in. There's not, yes, there's some action required in the process, but it's nothing that's scary. It's simply showing up for yourself so that you can learn how to be more connected with God and yourself, and show up better in your life, for your family and for your business. That's what you got to do. you got to choose that side. That's all there is to it.
I love that. And I think that one of the most important things that I really want to clarify is that, some people are like, oh, my marriage is great, I don't need that. Like, no, there is no such thing, right? This is very much for women who are in a good marriage, because as I get more and more niched, and I mean, how much more niche can you get? God-centered women in business who are married, like, but now I'm even realizing that the women who are gaining the most are actually the ones that have a good marriage. They're not under pressure to decide if they're staying or leaving. They're not trying to figure out, if he is good or isn't good. Like, they know he's a good guy, they know they have a good marriage, and they're just like, whatever. Some things are challenging, but that's life. And those are the people who end up gaining the most out of the retreat. And that's why I'm making it for free, because that is my goal, that everybody should have an amazing marriage.
That's really interesting, actually. I believe it 100%. I feel like I'm one of those women. I'm one of those people, because I didn't necessarily see my marriage in a bad place at all. I just knew there was room for improvement, especially with the type of bickerments and arguments that we would get into. It was just, I'm like, there's got to be a way that I can be better at this, to where it keeps it from escalating, or, and there is, there is. I mean, I feel like a lot of that came from your coaching. I learned a lot more about that through your coaching, one-on-one and with Tamima, in the group sessions. And it has taken some time, and I'm by no means perfect. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I am so much more improved than I was before. Those escalations don't escalate nearly as much as they used to. Mostly because I understand myself more, and also my husband.
Yeah. And, my last point, I think, is the thing that made it so amazing is your commitment to yourself. When you wanted to sign up for the program, your husband said no twice.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Very true.
Yeah. And then you were like, okay, I'm asking one last time. And if you say no again, I'm not asking ever again. And then he said, fine, do what you want.
Yes.
And that is priceless. You know why? Because now is 6 months later, and now your husband is like all over it.
Yes. Yeah, there's many times that he'll say, and I usually haven't ended up asking you, because I've been able to remember what I've learned. But there's been a few times where he's like, I don't know, ask Barten. She'll know. Just ask her. I'm sure she has the answer. You can go ask her, because like, this isn't a moment of frustration. And then I'll sit there for a moment, and he's like, why are you quiet? You're not saying anything. I'm like, because I'm trying to remember, because I know I've learned what I'm supposed to learn. It's really, that's how things pan out. But I'm using what I'm learning. I'm applying what I'm learning. It is working. I am proof. I am proof. That is very true.
It's such a pleasure. I was telling my husband, I feel like I have this like ownership, like responsibility almost over these like humans. And I'm sitting there just like enjoying their growth as if I had anything to do with it. But I don't. I see you guys are taking the stuff, the tools, the things that we're doing, and just like running with them. And it's so fun. It's so beautiful. It's just phenomenal. So thank you for letting me in.
Yes, I can't. I feel like I owe the last 6 months of my life to you, because it just, it's so different than what it was. And like I said, it wasn't terrible, but it's so much better than it was before. And I would say the retreat in and of itself was like the first 80% of that. I mean, maybe that's jumping a little too far, but I don't think so. I noticed so many changes. What the retreat does is it's like it crunches the most important things into those 7 days, and you get a break. Like, come on, where else do you get that? I've never heard of a retreat doing that. Come on, that was amazing. Because then you get to do a lot of processing, which we as women tend to do. So you kind of you crunch the most important into a week, and then what the coaching has done is we've been able to like nitpick those parts and really ask the questions like, okay, you said this, and I think I grasped what you were saying, but is that what you meant? And then you'll explain, or it will just be learning how to meditate, which I'd heard it was beneficial, but I didn't really understand until I did it. So yeah, I could keep going on and on forever though.
This is beautiful. First of all, you don't owe it to me. It was an investment in yourself. And, out of those 80% of the retreat being the biggest impact, your commitment to yourself was 79% of that. Like, just committing and saying, I am going to take this seriously. I'm going to learn what I need to learn. I'm going to be open to hearing what I need to hear was life-changing just in itself. And then committing to the entire program and doing the work and showing up. And, sometimes it's not like you didn't have any highs and lows or questions or things, but like you had where to go with it. You knew where to turn and you had the tools. Like you were saying, you just needed to stop and like pause for a second, but it was all there. And it's just really, it's so powerful.
It is. It really is. I appreciate you putting that into perspective too, because yeah, if there's anything that's really important, it's to show up whether you feel like you are worthy of doing so or not, because it's just that is the biggest part. Show up.
Yeah.
Be present.
Oh yeah. I love that. Oh, thank you so much, Tamima. Okay, since I love showcasing amazing women, please tell everyone where they can find you so that they can get in touch with you if they want to learn more about what you do.
So being that we are in the US, we actually, when I did a workshop with Tamima, who's been on here, with you guys being there in Israel, it's not, our website doesn't necessarily come up for you. So you can find me on Instagram. My handle is at the Regina Cox. So just the THE, Regina Cox, my name spelled out, REGINA COX. There's no punctuation in there or anything. And then I'm also on Facebook. You can find me again, Regina Cox. And then my maiden name is in parentheses. So that way you'll know that it's me. My maiden name is Wayne, WAYNE. And they're both public. So
that's cool.
Bat-Chen found me. You can find me too.
Listen, God led me to you because I have no idea how you popped up. I guess I just found that you did something with your husband or something and clicked. It was like, oh, she works with her husband. That's a cool angle for the podcast. And since then, season 2 is all about that. Women who work with their husbands or are, in business. So it's really cool. Tell us the website for those who are in America, because there's a lot who are.
Okay, so our website, I have that linked here. Let me pull it up really quickly.
So actually, we could just put it into the comments when we finish the live. That's cool.
That works.
Yeah. So you guys just make sure you look her up. And if you're listening to the podcast, it will be in the show notes. Thank you so much, Regina. I love you and I appreciate having you in my life. And I appreciate that you let me into your life.
Thank you for having me on here. And I love you just as much, if not more. It's no competition though. Yes, I really
love to go around. And if you did not yet, make sure that you sign up at ConnectedForReal.com/retreat, because that's where it's all happening, and it's happening next week. So don't wait, just do it.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you.
100%. If you're hesitant, sign up.
Yes, amen to that. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Bye.